not considering Saudi Arabia. That didn't quite make it into the article, but we're not considering playing in Saudi Arabia. But the question was around golf, and the LPGA commissioner's comment a year ago that she would consider talking to the Saudis was right after the whole Live Golf thing came out.
It began as a leak. A few whispers on social media about a women's super league being built overseas. Then came the reports. Saudi investors offering WNBA stars $50 million per season to join a brand new international league. To put that in perspective, the WNBA's highest salary right now is around $250,000. That means 1 year in Project B could earn a player more than 200 times what they make in the States. The goal? Create a global powerhouse that makes the WNBA look small. No salary caps, no restrictions, no waiting for TV deals. Just money, endless oil-backed money. And the timing couldn't be more explosive, because this new league is set to launch next fall, right in the middle of the WNBA's most fragile offseason ever. Project B didn't begin with a press release. It started quietly. Private meetings, closed doors, phones left outside. Over the last year, sports executives and financial heavyweights have been flying to Singapore.
The WNBA is at the top of its game. The WNBA is projected to double their revenue this year from 2019, but player salaries have barely budged.
The rumored headquarters of this mysterious new league. There, a small team began sketching out what could become the most ambitious women's sports project ever attempted. Their blueprint was simple. Take the Live Golf model that flipped men's golf upside down and repeat it with basketball. Use unlimited funding, recruit global stars, and make controversy part of the marketing. That's why names like Sue Bird and Candace Parker are suddenly being mentioned. They're not random supporters, they're consultants, helping design the league's structure, schedule, and media image. And according to early reports, LeBron James's business circle has been approached to invest, giving it instant celebrity power. Behind it all sits the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the same financial machine that changed soccer forever with billion-dollar signings.
WNBA players want as much money as the NBA players. So the NBA actually generates extreme amounts of revenue. Somebody wrote a joke about it, that the WNBA wanted what their just pay was, and so they owe $400 million, because that's really how it balances out. It's like a losing, it's never been profitable.
Their goal isn't just to join women's basketball, it's to own it. And while the WNBA has been busy negotiating modest pay raises, Project B has been offering contracts worth more than the entire salary cap of multiple teams combined. But the timing of this move makes everything even more dangerous. Because just as this new league prepares to launch, the WNBA is walking straight into one of its most vulnerable moments yet. The WNBA should be celebrating. Attendance is up, viewership is breaking records, and players like Caitlin Clark have turned casual fans into diehards. But behind the scenes, the league is walking into a storm. Because right as the WNBA prepares for its next collective bargaining agreement, players are finally demanding what they've earned. Bigger salaries, better travel, real marketing budgets.
So nothing. $0. Negative 50 million. Negative 50 million because, guys, apparently the NBA, which is the men's league, right, has to take out $50 million to keep this league running. Like, that's embarrassing.
And now, suddenly a rival league is dangling $50 million contracts in front of their faces. How do you negotiate a raise when someone overseas is offering you generational wealth? You can't. More than half the WNBA will be free agents or out of rookie deals by next summer. That means every big name, from Angel Reese to Aja Wilson, is eligible to listen when Project B calls. For years, the WNBA's main leverage was pride. Play for the home league, build the legacy. But legacy doesn't pay mortgages, and the players know it. If even a handful of stars decide to take the deal, it could cause a domino effect that hits the WNBA at its most fragile point. And that's exactly what Project B is counting on. Because they're not chasing rookies, they're chasing the faces of the league. Every league has stars, but in women's basketball, those stars are the league.
It's the Caitlin Clark effect, Clarkonomics, whatever you want to call it. At this point in time, if you're still denying that, I don't know what to say. You're not living in reality. Unfortunately, though, there are still people at this point in time who are still denying that. When Caitlin Clark went out with injury in the beginning of the season, viewership dropped over 50% league-wide.
Without Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Aja Wilson, there is no viral moment, no record TV rating, no packed arena. And that's exactly who Project B is targeting. Imagine the headlines if Caitlin Clark signs a $50 million contract overseas. the player who doubled WNBA viewership suddenly suiting up in Singapore, backed by LeBron-level money and global TV deals. For the Saudis, it's not about basketball, it's about visibility. Caitlin isn't just a player, she's a media empire. Then there's Angel Reese, whose social media following already rivals entire WNBA franchises. Her charisma and controversy make her the perfect marketing weapon for a new league hungry for attention.
Before the 2023 season, the WNBA had grown by 40% viewership from 2022 to 2023. But with Caitlin Clark's arrival, it's grown by 400% viewership. What that means is if the WNBA were continue to grow at the rate it grew from 22 to 23, it would take until 2028 to do what Caitlin Clark did this year.
Add in global icons like Breanna Stewart or Aja Wilson, and you have an instant super league, one the WNBA couldn't possibly match financially. The pitch is simple: 6-month season, private jets, luxury housing, and more money in 1 year than they'd earn in 2 decades back home. For athletes who've spent years flying commercial and begging for respect, it's almost impossible to say no. But not everyone sees this as an opportunity, because behind the billion-dollar shine, critics say something darker is hiding. And the backlash could get ugly fast. Not everyone is celebrating, because for every fan excited about $50 million paychecks, there's another asking, at what cost? Project B's biggest backer is the Saudi Public Investment Fund, a group with nearly unlimited money and a controversial reputation. The same fund has been accused of using sports to rebrand its global image, buying golf, soccer, and now women's basketball to change headlines. It's called sports washing, and it's what makes this league so divisive.
So no, we're not considering playing in Saudi Arabia, but we are looking at a global games platform. I've admired what the NBA has done with their global games platform, and we played a preseason game in Canada this year where 20,000 people sold out where the Raptors play.
For players, it's not just about money, it's about values. Do you turn down $50 million to protect your reputation, or take it and face the critics? It's the same dilemma golfers faced when the LIV Tour began. Outrage at first, then silence once the checks cleared. Fans booed, sponsors hesitated, but money always wins in the end. And that's the tension tearing women's basketball apart before Project B even tips off. Some players see it as betrayal, selling out the league that built them. Others see it as liberation, finally being paid what they're worth. But for the WNBA, this isn't a moral debate. It's survival. Because if even a few players cross that line, the league's foundation starts to crack. And once it does, there's no easy way back. The WNBA is trapped in a corner it never saw coming. For years, players have begged for better pay, improved travel, and fair marketing. But now that someone else is finally offering it, the league can't compete. Under the current rules, the WNBA can't stop players from joining overseas leagues during the offseason. It's been that way for decades. Many players spend their winters in Europe or China just to make ends meet. But this is different. This isn't a side hustle, it's a full-blown alternative. If Project B succeeds, it could pull away the biggest names and leave the WNBA scrambling for replacements. Imagine a season without Clark, Boston, or Wilson. Sponsors would vanish, attendance would crash, and the broadcast deals that took years to build could fall apart overnight. Even worse, the WNBA's next collective bargaining negotiations are right around the corner. How do you convince players to stay loyal when they could make life-changing money somewhere else? Flying private, living tax-free, and never worrying about endorsements again? The truth is, the WNBA has no answer. They can't match the money, they can't stop the players, and they can't ignore the fact that this new league is being built with precision, power, and patience. But there's one player who could change everything: the face of women's basketball herself. Every era of basketball has a player who defines it, and right now, that player is Caitlin Clark. She's not just the WNBA's biggest rookie. She's the reason attendance, merchandise, and TV ratings exploded overnight. In less than a year, Clark turned the Indiana Fever into the league's most watched team, and her highlight clips generate more views than entire franchises. That's why Project B's rumored offers start with her name at the top of the list. Because if Clark goes, others follow. Sources say the league's investors see her as their LeBron moment, the face who could legitimize everything. Imagine it. Caitlin Clark signing a $50 million contract, global broadcasts across Asia, sponsorships pouring in, and headlines calling her the highest-paid woman in basketball history. It's tempting, but Caitlin isn't impulsive. She's brand-conscious, sponsor-friendly, and calculated with every move she makes. She knows one wrong decision could change how fans and corporate partners view her forever. If she joins, she risks backlash and controversy. If she stays, she pressures the WNBA to finally raise its standards. In other words, Caitlin Clark is standing at the most powerful crossroads of her career, and whichever path she chooses might decide the fate of the entire league. Because right now, every agent, player, and executive is waiting for one answer. Will she chase history or the money? No matter what happens next, the landscape of women's basketball will never look the same again. The creation of Project B isn't just about money, it's about power. For the first time, the WNBA isn't the only stage. If this league succeeds, it could redefine what it means to be a professional athlete. Players wouldn't have to beg for charter flights or fight for basic respect. They'd finally have leverage, real leverage, to choose where and how they play. But there's also risk, because when money moves this fast, things break. If the WNBA loses its biggest stars, sponsors and networks could walk away. The progress built over decades, the culture, the fan loyalty, the fight for equality, could vanish overnight. So maybe this moment isn't just a financial revolution. Maybe it's a test of loyalty, leadership, and how far athletes are willing to go to secure their futures. Caitlin Clark might stay and force change from within. Others might take the money and start a new chapter overseas. Either way, women's basketball is standing on the edge of its biggest transformation ever. Because once $50 million contracts hit the table, the old rules don't matter anymore. The game has changed forever.